Yes, everyone, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Tottenham are back. The season is back. That means your midweek debate shows are back. And as you can see this evening, we have lined up a stellar panel. No Jack today as he's still away on his family vacation. But we have Sean from Spurs Talk Show. How are you keeping, my man?
Always good, mate. Always good. Good to be back on the show. Good to see everyone. Shout out to Brain. Shout out to Dave. Shout out to the chat. How's the chat doing? I hope the chat is keeping it cool.
And everyone, if you do enjoy Sean's contribution to this show, I have put at Spurs Talk Show in the title. I've finally figured out how to do some of this stuff. So simply all I got to do is click on that, get over and check out his channel and smash that subscribe button. And we have drafted in Brains this evening as well. Brains, how you keeping, my man?
Not bad. Not bad. It's start of a new season. It's kind of exciting. I kind of feel like, you know, when you're in the start of a relationship and you're the kind of infatuations kind of starting to drift away and you're getting down to business, like, are we gonna really suit each other? Where are we going with this? I feel like that's where I'm getting to.
Mate, it's so strange to me that the two of us, right? I know the sort of guy you used to be, and yet when you're giving your analogies now, it's about the start of a relationship, handling the relationship. What do you do when the relationship's going sour? With me, I'm still clinging on to those days back in the 20s when I could go out and pull 7s and 8s. I'm talking about going to the nightclub with a different shirt on. You know, is it not your favorite shirt, but you can still handle the business? Like, I haven't grown up. You clearly have progressed into that next stage of life. Congratulations. I'm very jealous.
Sean, you lost me. You lost my train of thought as soon as you said back in the day you just pick up 7s and 8s. I want some proof of this. I want video. I want proper proof. All right?
Sean, you must have been hitting up them nightclubs in Sweden you were talking about earlier on.
100%. Yeah.
Well, look, we'll kick it off and we'll answer Dark Sun G super chat here. By the way, big up, my man, and then we're going to welcome everybody in. And then I've got a lot of good talking points tonight, I feel, and hopefully you guys enjoy the conversation out there. But Dark Sun G says, I like our incoming so far. Now, if our outcomings happen, then we can expect a great season for this new era of Tottenham. We'll throw the first part to you, Shawnee. You know, look, many would say we're only a couple signings away of maybe getting really excited behind this. A centre-back, maybe a striker as well, from sort of a really exciting season where maybe, just maybe, we might be able to do something. Are you of the same train of thought, or do you still think, look, it's going to be a long sort of season?
I'm not tempted into changing my assessment of the season. I'm happy for this season to be a progress, a project, and my expectations to stay fairly muted. Big up to Dark Sun G, mate. It's good to see you back around the parts, back around the channels. I agree with him. We are only 3 signings away from having a really great first 11 and enough backup to then kind of fight off the vulnerabilities that happen during the season, the variables that happen. I do think we need backup on the front line. I think you could make the argument you probably need at least 1, if not 2, up the top end. And I think you definitely need at least 1 more centre back. And then I think after that, maybe there's a problem at right back for depth we need to talk about. You could make the same argument in a perfect world for the left back, and maybe make the argument as well for the 6. So there's still 5 or 6 potential improvements that we could make. We're not far away, but I don't expect them all to be done now. I'm tolerant of what we've done. I think we need at least 2 more in, and obviously that requires maybe 8 or 9 out. But January is not that far away. Maybe 1 more in then, and then I expect then with just a couple more changes in next summer, 4 more additions next summer. Then next summer is the season. This next season is a season when I think that Tottenham can then make moves and really go. For me right now, my expectations are still, top half of the table. But if we get to the Europa League, I think it will be a brilliant, successful first season for Ange.
Yeah, I definitely would love to come out of this season with some sort of European football for sure. And look, Dark Sun G, in order for these incomings to happen, we have to get outgoings, which we're going to get onto. That is going to be my first talking point today. But Brains, let's take the second part of the super chat. He's alluding to Man United's sort of poor performance against Wolves yesterday. They got away with it at the end with that penalty decision as well, which, by the way, they've come out and suspended the refs, which is a joke because it doesn't do anything for Wolves. It doesn't reimburse Wolves in any way. But, looking at that Man United midfield last night, Brains, it was non-existent. Is this as daunting as a task as maybe we feared coming into the season when the fixtures were announced?
Yeah, it's that situation like when you watch. I watched a lot of preseason of all the teams. There was that series happening in the States, and everything is just so misleading in preseason. You'll see teams start to you looked at Chelsea and some of their signings that they brought in, and even like kids through from their academy, and they just looked like it was like this team's gonna kill everyone. And then as soon as they went up against someone a little bit more, like they go up against Brighton, all of a sudden it's like, okay, Chelsea don't look that good anymore, you know. So it's all about like the styles of play. It's about how much can the manager get their ideologies in. But for me, that was an absolute insane shock last night. I could not believe how easily they carved them open and just had chance after chance running through the midfield that didn't seem like. And I knew there was going to be a problem with Mason Mount going into that midfield. It was like, what's going to happen now? It was the same problem when he was at Chelsea. It was like, too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, what's going to happen here? You know, so I think there's a lot of teething problems with a lot of teams. The only teams that I think have started something, established it last season, and then they've built on it are Brighton and Newcastle. Like Newcastle really have just
they look good.
The pragmatic way that they're going about their signings is like, no, we need this guy here. We need a deep line, a Regista to play off like Salah. We need players to go and link like that. And so they got a Tonali to play with someone to link from the bottom to play with Guimaraes. Like, they're very clever in what they do. You know, I guess that's maybe the kind of balls of knowing that you got some quid in the bank that you can just go like, we don't have to run and buy everyone. Let's just get exactly what they need. With us, I still kind of feel like, you know, you have these expectations, and obviously Spurs, it's so hard to have any high expectations anymore. I'm thinking like, you know, if we get into the top 10, it'll be all right, you know. But then as soon as you see the style of play, and it's like you see that girl in the club and you start flirting, and she's like kind of.
Don't bring in the club analogies now, my man. You made your bed with the getting married girlfriend nonsense. Don't bring in the club. No, that's my domain. All right.
All right. Say it's like you're at a coffee shop and you're getting on all right. You're making the girl laugh, you know, and the infatuation's getting cracking, and you think, oh man, I think this could be love forever.
Yeah.
And then the first day of the season,
you're talking 4 beers in, right? 4 beers in. Yeah.
First day of the season, all of a sudden it's that reality. It's that like, okay, you know, all right, okay. So we know like we've got even with an incredible center back coming in like Van de Ven, no one really is gelling well. No one really knows. Are we playing like kind of zonal? No one really knows who goes, who doesn't. That same problem that's been our problem for a long time. Who goes ball? Who stays? Who watches over shoulder? You know, it's been that chaos. You'd be forgiven for thinking that was just a Dyer problem. No, that's a Spurs problem. Since Vertonghen, you know, like since we lost that cohesion between the two, and I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get that back. But so there's loads of teething problems, and that just kind of hits away at your kind of expectations of massive things. But still, the style of play. It is like that hot girl that Sean's eyeing up at the bar, and he's thinking, I used to pull 8s and 9s. I'm going to go for it. And then she slaps me in the face. Reality is, get another centre back, you bitch.
The problem is Manchester United might have that guy over your shoulder who's just a little bit better looking in the form of Rashford.
That's my girl,
Yeah. You go over to the bar, you're walking over again. Hey, how you doing? Then you drop your credit card, and by the time you've got up, she's been taken away by Rashford. That's what they're going to have to face on Saturday afternoon.
Well, look, it's a big game, and it's one that's going to tell us a lot for sure. You know, can we implement that style of play against the bigger teams and still hold on to possession and keep them penned in for long periods? So it'll be very, very interesting, Dark Song G. But big up, brother, and really appreciate the support. Let's go through the chat. Let's welcome some people quickly, and then I want to get into some talking points. We have Ellie, big up, Ellie. We also have Paro Miguel Escobardo. Sean, big up, it's my man. Kate, brilliant to see you. Adrian Schrocke, Ian Ferguson, Tyler, Peter Ange. We also have Jacob from United Spurs of America, Slim Boy Tubbs. What an oxymoron. The bottom duta. We also have Darius, big yourself up, Iceman. We also have KPV, DB, James Watson, Effing Hell, Terry Wright, Drewla, big yourself up. Great to see you. Or Drewzilla, sorry. Great to see you. Good to see you. Sean's #1 fan. King Hoddle, big up, my man. Scooter Reacts. We also have Lisa. Cry away my pain. That's what a lot of us Spurs fans feel like over the last few years, my man. Martin Lightbridge, great to see you. Congo Dubs as well. Davy Hall, and also Darnesh as well. I think I've got absolutely everybody there. So big yourselves up. Big Boss Man, Lynchy, all coming in there as well. So big yourselves up. We're just going to crack on now, get into the talking points. Everyone, please, you know the deal. Get your comments in, get your thoughts in the comment section as we go along. We'll bring them up. If you want it to be guaranteed to be able to read out and discuss, Super Chat is your guide to go to. And plus, it's a great way to help out the channel. But obviously, we understand it's a hard time for everybody out there. And we do our best to try and give everyone a fair crack of the whip and put up as many questions or that as we can. And most importantly, make sure you smash that like button. Sean's ratio over on Spurs Talk Show is absolutely magnificent. So make sure you help us out here and get our ratio
50%. 50% minimum, guys, in the comment section, right? If there's 300 people in the house, you got to have 150. And then as the show goes on, some of those people will have drifted out and gone and got a cup of tea. New people are coming in. So as the show goes on, you got to get to 60% ratios, okay? Minimum expectation. It's free. It's just like taking your shoes off when you walk in your home. You're going to do it. Just like help Dave out, help the channel out. It helps more than you could possibly imagine. So always smash the like button.
Big up, everybody. Make sure you do what Shawnee's just explained there. Big up, Shawnee. Appreciate that. But look, let's get into it. And I want to talk about Tottenham's clear out because I've done a bit of research today. And, you know, when I had nothing to do there for a spare hour, I was actually taking a break away from the computer. And this just popped into my head. But heading into this summer, we needed a massive overhaul of our playing squad. And to start that, we needed to start with a clear out. But to date, we've only got 3 players out: Harry Winks, Joe Rodon, and Harry Kane. That leaves us with a squad of 34 players still that have to be whittled down. And I would say, yeah, to 25, obviously, for squad registration, but probably 23, 24 if you want room to maneuver to be able to bring a few in before the window closes. So that's 10 players that we needed to clear out. And while I understand you can't do everything in one window, I want to give you, in comparison to someone like Chelsea, right? Todd Bowley. He only took over Chelsea in May of 2022. But only 2 players remain from that starting 11 that won the Champions League into 2021. And believe it or not, all 12 subs that night are gone as well. Compared to us, who we still have 5 from that squad of that reached that final in 2019. That's Dyer, Davies, Son, Lloris, Sanchez. Okay, take someone out of it because he's the captain and we want to keep the best players of that. But why is it taking us so long to get players out? Sean, is it down to ambition from the chairmen? Is it down to the quality of players that both clubs have to sell? Is it one being more proactive about it than the other? Why have Chelsea been able to do it but not Tottenham?
Yeah, so it's a very nuanced question, mate. I think generally speaking, like it's a little bit from column A, B, C, D, and E. Let's start with Chelsea. I think Chelsea have got 5 or 6 guys now. It's not just Todd Bowley that are doing these deals. I think he's got 5 or 6 people that are out there, you know, working their various magic. So it's easier to, there's enough cooks that don't spoil the broth, but that are actually allowing them to cook, if that, you know, enough chefs that are allowing them to cook in that regard. So that's the first thing. With us at the moment, all we have is Daniel Levy, Paratici on some level working from afar. I don't know what really how involved he can be in direct negotiations. I don't think Gabonini or whatever his name is going to be actually directly involved in the process. So, and also I think that, you know, Tottenham at the moment have got loads of distractions with Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy probably talking to him about things that are going on there. So it's not an easy direct relationship. Second thing is that Chelsea have got better players, and the players that they have that are more likely to be sold are going to go to the variety of football clubs that have the money. We spoke about this all last year. Europe is broke. And outside of the advent of Saudi Arabia, the clubs in Europe, because of the distribution of the football pyramid when it comes to money dilution or distribution in those other leagues, which is really, you know, insanely kind of narrow with their hierarchy. So all the money is left in the top 3 or 4 clubs. Chelsea have got a bunch of players that those top 3 or 4 clubs are interested in. Tottenham don't, right? Tottenham is trying to sell second-tier players to second-tier teams. On that basis, a lot of those teams are going to nickel and dime every little thing is going to affect them because they can't go and do it again elsewhere. Whereas Chelsea are selling to Manchester United, Chelsea are selling to Saudi Arabia, Chelsea are selling to Inter Milan, to AC Milan, to Juventus. Like they're the teams that have the money. Tottenham are trying to sell Reguilon to Real Sociedad, you know, Højbjerg to Atletico Madrid. They're the teams that are the have-nots in Europe. So there's that consequence as well. And thirdly, look, I think, you know, just for what it's worth, when you say we've got 34 players, does that include all of the young players like Alfie Devine and the Harvey White and things? 34 is like
Harvey White. I don't think qualifies for the under-21s anymore. I think he's 22 years of age, so he has to be a senior player now. Okay.
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, I think it just comes down to a combination of those two main factors, and also, you know, we do have a chairman who, I've said it a million times, people accuse me of always defending Daniel Levy. I don't on certain things. I think that he is a nickel and dimer who himself rates and overvalues our own assets, undervalues everybody else's, always thinks that everybody else is desperate for money. And then on our side, when it comes to selling, always thinks that he can get blood from a stone, and it slows the process down. Not having a director of football, not having a second in charge, Scott Munn's inaccessibility to starting his job, all those things are slowing down the hamster wheel here, and it's been a problem for sure.
Brains, what's your thoughts on that? Because, you know, I think Sean does raise good points about the sort of quality of the players that we have to sell, and maybe the clubs we're dealing with compared to maybe Chelsea, the quality of players they've had to sell, and the clubs they're dealing with. The fact that, you know, clubs still see sort of that player in there that maybe started at Chelsea at one point, and they're willing to maybe sacrifice. But also from a Tottenham point of view, you know, a lot of people like Ashman here say it's players dictating where they want to go. Also, Levy is being greedy regarding price tag on players. Do you think that's also a problem? Or is it just simply down to the ambitions of the chairman, how bold he wants to make Chelsea successful, and he's willing to get rid at any cost, compared to us, where, you know, this problem has been going on for quite some time. It's been going on for a few years now.
Yeah, so you've got kind of like one of the problems being, like, if you can't really compare them. You've got like Levy's been there for 20-something years. You know, like this guy's coming in. He's wanting to get things going. It's basically pragmatism in the market versus gluttony in the market. You know, like he wants to just force feed talent in and then see how it all falls. You know, whereas Levy's in a completely different boat. You know, it's been years of making wrong types of signings, getting the recruitment side of things wrong, having fractious relationships throughout our recruitment department and then also not like undercutting quality, you know, like going in for players, offering them derisory stuff, you know, and so sometimes you might get a player in, but you had to do it with some weird version of a deal that gives them a lot of say when it comes to getting rid of them. You know, you got Sanchez, you got Ndombele being able to go, nah, I don't want to go and play in a beautiful country like Turkey. Nah. It's like, how does he you don't see this stuff happening. You know, obviously the player always has his power, but there's a way that you can write contracts when you're not giving them what they're really worth up front, or if you're, you know, there's not with Ndombele, probably got way more up front, but certain players you have to give them a little bit more. You know, I don't know how we valued Sanchez for what we valued him at, and how we valued Ndombele for what we valued him at. You know, we'll go and we'll offer derisory offers to like Kavicha or someone like that. And then we'll go and just break the bank for someone who hasn't really done anything worthwhile, you know? So it's constant mistakes in the market. It's constant unexplainable things that then, like, look at the situation we're in now. You know, in Paratici, it's not his fault. Obviously, he's looking to bring in players for Conte. We get in a situation, we fight a whole window to get Pedro Porro, and we get Brian Hill coming in, and now look what's happening. You know, like does Hill, arguably Hill actually does fit this the way this would play. An actual left footer on the left wing going to the byline. Arguably he would fit in, but now he's had this horrible situation where it's like he should have been playing. He probably should have been embedded. He's went away on multiple loans. It's like we don't embed talent into our squads. They've got to come in and they got to hit the ground running, or it's like, sorry, mate, like you got to get your time somewhere else. It's not really the great way of working. You know, it's like the same thing now with Pedro Porro. We spent a whole window for him, and look at the situation we're in. He doesn't fit. You know, it's like we have to have him as a winger. You know, it's like we were constantly having to, like, we're buying players, changing managers. Now it's square pegs, round holes, fit, make someone play here. We just do our business in such a weird way. When it doesn't work, someone gets fired, and you're never going to build a brilliant system over time that way. So it all has to go to the top. It's bad man management. And then we get left in this situation. We don't go out in the market saying, and on one level of this, I'm not saying like I'm completely disappointed with where we're at. I think I'm just, you know, completely like Sean would say, you know, sometimes you have to walk, you know, shake hands with reality. Is that this is the situation we've got. We've got Levy. We know what the situation is. So the time that it's taken to get some players out at the rate that they're going out, I'm actually in some ways I'm slightly surprised we've actually got down to like just this bunch. It's taken some time, but actually, if you're looking at a starting lineup for this season and next season, it'll be a whole new thing. And finally, we can just.
Do you not think though? I'm sorry, Dave. Just quickly, is there? Look, I agree with everything you just said, Brains. Right, 100%. I completely agree with everything you're saying. I think we do have a guy in Daniel Levy that is a bottleneck to moving things out. Whereas with Todd Bowley and his little entourage, you've got people that are willing to do business, that aren't going to miss the wood for the trees. You know, lose $1 million here, gain $1 million here. Dave, we spoke about it earlier. You know, hanging on to Harry Kane until 2 days before the Brentford game. Well, look, you could make the argument that had he dealt a month earlier, he would never have got, and he would have missed out on 25 million, right? Because at that point in the window, we were only going to get 85 or whatever, or 70, whatever it was that they were offering. So you go, okay, well, there's the justification, right? You hold on for that pound of flesh, and you've got yourself your 25 million. But now you're going to have to go and replace it. You're replacing Kane. I know we're going to talk about that at some point, but you're going to have to pay the tail end of the window prices. And every summer has proven correct. The early bird catches the worm, and patience isn't a virtue when it comes to paying the fees, right? You see it, the inflation gets stronger and stronger, and it's only going to get worse for the same reason you said earlier, Dave, that people don't want to lose their best players after the season started. It's too disruptive. What I would say is that for me, I feel like the other angle here around getting this squad number down, it's not just about Daniel Levy. I feel like Ange Postecoglou has had to have a little bit of time to run his eye over some of these players. And I think a couple of the players that we all thought were going to be out the door have actually probably stood up and been counted for and are no longer part of the exodus. And that, I think, has disrupted plans with regards to the outgoings as well. And I'm talking about players like Lo Celso, players like Perisic. You know, I think that maybe just the way that they've behaved, the way that they've stepped up, the way that Andrew said, actually, don't sell them, don't get rid of them. Maybe that's just been a little bit of a kind of a spoke, like a stick in the spoke of the wheel here that maybe is, again, changing things up. There's all these variables we have to contemplate, you know?
Do you not think, Dave, that's kind of facilitated a little bit of laziness? Like it's the right intention for him because he wants to give every man a chance, right? So it's perfect intention. It's great. It's great character for him. But what it does, because he doesn't know our board and our such, it facilitates the laziness of, oh, cool. Well, put them on tour. Yeah, like we'll kick back. Anyone do any work when they're on tour? Anyone do any work at that time? Did they all go on holiday? Because nothing.
It's jolly for Donna Maria Cullen. So jolly for Daniel Levy. I don't know why you need to be there. I don't understand why you need on the first day when they were training in the Perth cricket ground.
Yeah,
and they walked through the training like it was like, "Hi, Donna here. Welcome everybody. What are you doing? Why are you there? You don't need to be there. You are irrelevant to this." Surely you've got work to do.
This is the thing, but this is the things the club do that just don't help themselves. Like, we have such a big undertaking with this window, and I get your point, Sean, about, you know, Ange wanting to look at players, but the reality is, when he interviewed with the job, he would have already said, look, these are the players I can't work with, these are the players I want to take a look at. The same way he already identified his transfer targets. And I'd also make the argument that because we failed to get players out, and the majority of them are still on the list, on the transfer list today, that we already knew before Ange Postecoglou came in here needed to go, I'd argue that we've wasted time. And the fact that we weren't proactive enough about trying to sort this issue out, it led to Ange Postecoglou having to bring everyone on pre-season tour, because he said when he walked in here, he wanted to give people a fresh chance and a fresh opportunity. But let's be real. When he interviewed for the job, he would have walked in and he would have pinpointed players he wants out the door and pinpointed certain players that he wanted to stay.
Yeah,
100%.
Look,
I mean, how many? So, like, let's dial in. Can we dial into that? I know we got to move on to other topics, but it's a really interesting point, Dave. Like, did Ange come in thinking that Sanchez was going to be out the door, and then actually Sanchez has materialized as he's manifested himself as suddenly the best of the rest when it comes to centre back options? Like, would he be out of this door, out of the Tottenham right now, had he accepted the move to Turkey or accepted the move to Russia? I'm not putting any pressure on him to go to Russia. It's probably a weird place for someone like him to be right now. So no issue. But then he steps up against Barcelona and puts in a brilliant performance. He did really well for what it's worth against Brentford. And like, are those things like surprising to us? Were they surprising to Ange? What about Eric Dyer? Like, I don't know how many of these stories that we're hearing in the moment, that we're seeing in the moment. Did Ange come in and think, my point being, did Ange come in and think Sanchez is probably out the door, but actually now he's saying, don't sell Sanchez. Don't sell Sanchez. If you're going to sell anyone, sell Ben Davies or sell Dyer, because those two haven't impressed me in pre-season, whereas Sanchez seems to suit the system more. These are variables that you don't know until you know.
Look, I hear your point on it, but the reality is we should never be in a position for that to happen, because, look, I get it. Sanchez played well against Barcelona. He played well against Brentford. But we still conceded 6 goals over them 2 games, and we still didn't win any of them games. You know, yes, he's got good pace. Yes, he done better on the ball than what we used to see, but there's still defensive frailties in his game. And we know he is not good enough for what we need going forward. So the reality is, Ange Postecoglou just shouldn't have to pick from any of them. If we had serious ambition and wanted to try and get this rebuild fully underway, which we've been in a perpetual cycle for 4 years doing this, by the way, chopping and changing managers, and the slowness of getting players out the door is what keeps hindering us from really sort of moving on from this era. And my point is, the club should already know as a club, because they should already know that certain players have to go. And Ange Postecoglou shouldn't be in the position where he has to pick between Dyer, Davies and Sanchez. They should be gone out the door for what they've cost this club over the last 4 years, with them stepping up since others have gone for various reasons, because they're being too old or whatever have you now. He shouldn't have to pick between any of them. We know none of them are good enough. And for me, it comes down to the ambition. I also question, do clubs want to come in and negotiate with Levy for players that they want to buy, because they know the negotiations are going to take so long to conclude? Also, does Daniel Levy's personal relationship with a lot of these players over the last few years have anything to do with how quickly he has failed to move them on? Because, as we know, the managers have had no real sort of power or sway in that regard, because they walk into a manager's office, they don't like what he has to say, they go to Mr. Levy, and he's been known for mingling in with them and around the canteen and everything else. So have personal relationships got in the way and holding it back?
Yeah.
Good point. I mean, it's interesting, you know, there's this, you know, Aussie 12 in the comments was saying, how does, you know, how does going on preseason, and how does the need for certain things stop us buying a striker and a defender? Like, you know, it's like it shouldn't. But then when you think that you have the way that we go into the market is it's all budget, you know, so it's like you can't get this in until you get this out. You have a bloated squad, you want to get people out, and you want to fill the holes. So it's like that's the way they're working. But yeah, I think it's all of the above. Like everything we've said so far, I don't think you could like pull something out and go, no, that's completely wrong. It's a mash of all these problems, you know. And I just think like they're like, you're right, like, you know, he's got such a specific style of play. Like, so you know for sure, defenders wise, you could have easily said Romero has to play because he's got some speed. Sanchez has speed, so more likely Sanchez than the rest of them. Sanchez, Tanganga, maybe. Then you see Tanganga, he's not really good with the ball at his feet. He's a bit rash. Okay, well, Tanganga gone, you know? It's like you knew that you had to buy 3 or 4 center backs. You knew that before him coming in, the way that we have to play, you knew you
3
had
or 4?
3 or 4 center backs.
That's a stretch, mate.
Because only Romero.
Yeah, it's a stretch. It's a come on. Like we're playing 1 game a week. You know.
Yeah, no. So I'm saying, like, if before he even comes in, if you're gonna get Ange in and you look at the center backs you've got at your club and you look at the way he plays, you're going, I think you can just clearly say these 3-4 center backs don't work. Sanchez might be able to do it, but look at the time he's had here. Romero's the only one who can kind of do it. So you would have had to thought, you know, right, well, then don't get him in if you are not going to commit to it. It's a new style of play.
Well,
so
yeah, true. I think that Rome wasn't built in a day, though, Brains, right? So I feel like everyone needs to remember that there is more than just a new manager coming in. It's an entirely new system, an entirely new pivot. And there's players that we spent a lot of money on, and we knew this was happening. I remember talking to you, Dave, about this all the way from December when Conte walked away from new contract talks. I remember talking to you saying, this is going to end at some point, whether it's unless he signs in January, it's going to end. And for me, I'm happy for it to end as long as the next pivot is the final pivot from systemic formation and ideology. As long as we go back to a front foot system, and then that manager, whoever it is, and I had no idea it would be Ange at the time, but I was like, if it doesn't work, and it probably won't, because we'll be left with so many square pegs in round holes. As long as the manager after that is inheriting a team that fits on some level the system that guy's going to want to play, and then the system after that is similar as well, then you can move. Then you get efficiencies and you get economies of scale. Then you're not spending £50 million on a Porro, who, for what it's worth, for me, I think I love this guy, Dave. I said it before. I love the guy. I love his attitude. I don't think he fits any part of Tottenham's new system. And the people that are saying he's a right winger, they're saying it because they know he's not a right back, and they're trying to make him fit. And I don't think he fits a right wing either. Like, I don't know if there was any way we could have wriggled out of the obligation, if it was an obligation to buy him. But he is a perfect example of a square peg in a round hole that is the hangover from the last 2 systems that we played. And for me, you're going to go through this. So you can't. Rome wasn't built in a day. And that's why I am not in any way, shape, or form going to hang my hat and say Tottenham are going to do bits this year, because I don't expect him to. I want him to see through this season, get to January. We can't. And the other problem is, if you go and bring in 20 new players in one window, then you have the Nottingham Forest issue, where they spent half of the season trying to get everyone to be friends. No one knew each other.
But Sean,
the end of last season, Nottingham Forest started to do bits. So maybe this season Forest will be an upside.
Sean, I want to. My point. Sorry, Dave. My point is that in any building of any football team, you always start at the back. Like, so we brought a keeper in, and we're going, okay, we're seeming to have the idea that you have to get the great goalkeeper in. If your style of play is play it from the back, you've got to identify that goalkeeper and get him in. You have to build a squad from the back. You have to know who your centre backs are. The problem we're in now is that, like, we have Van de Ven and Romero. They will be a great partnership. I have no doubt that will be a phenomenal centre back duo. But it's how we work. So now if you build a team, you build them from the back, and you have a strong midfield, you have an amazing attack. Spurs had amazing attack. Spurs had an overflow of midfielders. Who's going to stay? Who's going to go? So that was a problem there. But then centre back was the real problem. So we should have started number 1 priority: goalkeeper, 2 centre backs. That's it. Don't worry about anything else for the meantime. But the other thing is, it should have been goalkeeper, 2 centre backs, and obviously from day 1 of him coming in, he spoke to Harry Kane. They knew from that conversation, Harry Kane decided he was gone. So it was 2 centre backs, get in quick, goalkeeper, get in quick, and a replacement for Harry Kane. Matters. It's amazing. And we could have done that deal. Great to get it. I'm not saying anything wrong with that deal. It's a great deal, but it wasn't a priority. Well, obviously, we always wanted a cam. It wasn't really a priority. To build, this is the situation we're in now. Van de Ven or Romero get injured. shit streak. We're already in shit streak with the two of them playing because there's no cohesion out the play yet. So the defense is a complete mess. We're going to concede loads of goals. You don't build a team like that. You build a team with a very strong defense, and now we don't have that, and we have an attack that doesn't really work because there's 2 square pegs and 2 round holes, and a centre forward who can't score for love or money. So,
yeah, and look, I want to come back to that because I want to come back and maybe summarize the overall point. But let's get on to Brian Dempsey's super chat here. We've got a couple there to get through, so we'll discuss the talker point here. Brian Dempsey, big yourself up, my man, and hopefully you're keeping well. And it's good to see you in. He says, "All right, Dave, mate, and the panel. Hope you're all doing well. My question is Gift going to sign or not?" Now, look, I think the latest reports I've seen that Tottenham have agreed personal terms with Gift Orban. But I also believe Genk don't want to let another striker go. They're not prepared to sell 2 strikers this window. So it'll be very interesting to see how this pans out. I mean, we'll hand this one over to you, Shawnee. I mean, Gift Orban, do you think we're going to get him in before the window closes? Because I think this one we can bring in, right, because of his age, and we don't actually have to register him because he can be a part of the under-21 squad, if I'm correct.
Yeah. I hadn't even thought of that, mate, to be honest. Yeah, I think you're probably right. God, it's amazing when you think about bringing in a player for 30 million quid who doesn't affect your squad.
Yeah.
You know? But and there you go, mate. This is what we're talking about with this guy. For me, we had this conversation earlier. I did a video on it as well. The risk reward. There's a couple other players out there that are at that same price point. You know, Kyogo, Furuhashi. For me, Gift Orban is a risk I'm willing to take. I think that this guy is just he's like a thoroughbred. You know, he's like a raw thoroughbred racehorse that is currently he's currently in the fledglings races, right? He's currently in the baby races, kicking, you know, everybody to the curb, just smashing it. And I think if he was a horse, everyone would be looking at him thinking it's not going to be too long before that guy's running in the champions race, the champions hurdle, the champion chase, whatever it might be. And I think that we've got someone potentially there that is worth the punt. And when you combine that, Dave, with what we spoke about earlier on, I went through, I've still got the list in front of me here, mate. Dave, I asked you about 20 different players.
Yeah.
And we dismissed 90% of them as too expensive or not really ready, not a good fit. There's only a couple of players on that list that I'd rather have. But I also recognize that if you go for a couple of bigger names like a Vlahovic, then that doesn't probably leave you with any change to go and fill the holes that Brains was talking about at the back.
Yeah.
I think that Orban, for the risk reward and what it allows you then to maybe do with the last bit of money to go and get some backup, I think he's the most logical sense. I'd love to see him. And I'm looking at him and just watching him. I just think he's someone who's got whatever it is. I think he has it. I think he hasn't been tested yet, but when he is, I think he'll figure it out. So,
look, for me, I think it's a huge risk. I think, asking a guy who scored goals in Norway and Belgium to step up and, hit the ground running in the Premier League, I think is an absolute huge risk and a huge gamble. But when you look at a lot of Tottenham signings since Paratici arrived and he's still acting in an advisory role, a lot of them are 25 or under, and that has been a common theme throughout Tottenham's recruitment and fits in with that. However, scoring goals is an absolute different ballgame altogether. Not everybody can do it. Not everyone has the mettle to do it. And I fear when you look at, and I'm not saying it's going to be as bad, but when you look at Leicester last season, that a backline that were conceding goals, they went without Schmeichel, who served a long time in goals, and they would try to go a different route down outside of Jamie Vardy. It ended up costing them the Premier League status. So for me, I think there's warning signs there that, it could very easily spiral if we don't get a hold of these two problems very, very quickly. I take what Sean's saying about the money. However, if the club knew coming into this summer transfer window that Harry Kane was going to be sold at some point, I get they have to wait for Bayern to stump up the money. But I do think if Spurs would have acted quicker, some of the other targets on that list, that when you outlay a certain amount of money on or you've got to target a certain quality, you will get that back in goals. And for me, I think the fact that we've left everything so late has left us in this position where we're looking at someone that's young and hungry rather than someone that we know is going to come in and bag the goals. Brains, what's your thoughts on it?
it's a weird one. As a striker, and also as someone who has watched a lot of footage of Kyogo and kind of studied the way he beats the offside line, how clever he is with his in out kind of ghosting technique. I love him to death, honestly. Like, there is, if you just think Occam's razor, right? Like, straight down, most logical thought is right. There is no one on the planet who can come in and do the job that needs to be done, because he knows the system. The only problem is the people outside of him don't know the system, so it might not work, because he actually knows the system way better than any of them. He would be looking for everyone to play that the right way right now. But I think he's number one. If you could get him, obviously they did that improved deal to keep him. So if you could get him for 30, I think 30 million is an absolute steal for that guy. Absolute steal. If you just go and watch the style of the techniques of a lot of the finishes, not just the tap-ins, the ones that he did from out of nowhere, like, it's beautiful. But I also love what I've seen of Orban, and I also like Nigerian players that go into like Belgian leagues. They do very well. They're strong, they're fast, they're hungry, they take on information so much. They're eager to please and learn and learn and learn. I think it's a great the transition he's had has been great, and I genuinely would be very excited to see him in. The other people like Vlahovic, like, I'd love that, but then there's the question marks of what happened to his form, what happened to his injuries, what happened around the World Cup. Like, there was all these things that happened. His attitude, did he what's going on there? So it's murky waters. Wait for Ivan Toney. I don't like this idea of waiting and letting this problem get worse. Do you let Valise have a go if Richarlison's going to keep being the way he is? Do you bring Sonny in the center, which is a good idea? But I genuinely believe, now that I think about it, it's not just a case of adapting Sonny to the center role. He likes taking the angled run in. He likes hitting swerve shots into the top important corners. I think for me, Occam's razor is either Kyogo, or I like the idea of getting someone like Gift Orban, who you've got for the next few years. And then it does, like Sean's saying, it allows you to go spend money on Sure and bring in another Dutch guy, so that if Romero isn't there, then you've got two Dutch rocks at the back. I love that idea. So, yeah, I would say either Kyogo or Orban if you could get them for 30. But I think Ghent are going to probably try push to 40. I think they're just going to see how much they can get.
For sure. Well, Brian Dempsey, there you are. That's our thoughts on it, my man. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section. Big up, Brian. Hope you enjoyed the conversation, my man. Dark Song G says, I hope to see Dyer, Tanguy, and Lloris leave within before January. Look, Dyer, for me, it's clear that his days are numbered, especially with what's going on around him at the minute. Tanguy and Ndombele, Ange was impressed with him, and then all of a sudden, everyone's worst fears about the guy came home to roost. And with Hugo Lloris, there are reports that linking him with Lazio this evening, so let's see how that pans out. But we ain't going to get much money on Hugo Lloris, because I do know the club are prepared to let him go for free if necessary. So big up Dark Song G. But we have to start getting deals done and getting them out of the club one way or another. So big yourself up for the support, my man. And Jory says, big up, Jory. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. He says, Sanchez has speed, physicality, size, but not the brains. Most often, Davies only has a bit of brains, and Dyer only has size. Sanchez only needs a head fix. Look, and this brings me back on to sort of the round.
Maybe a balance and leg fix as well. Sometimes his legs aren't working.
This is the thing. You probably take the best bits out of the three of them and put them together. You probably get one competent centre back. But my problem is that, my whole point is you look how quickly Todd Bowley has managed to get players out one way or another. They're out the door. Yeah. 2 left from that whole Champions League squad that they won in 2021. We're still pissing about since Pochettino left. And before he left, going into that season where he got sacked, he said we needed a painful rebuild. But here we are 4 years later, still going through it, still talking about the same players. And the players we were left with were not the best players of the Pochettino era. The likes of Dyer, Davies, Sanchez, people like that, they were only ever the supporting cast to that Poch team. So why is it taking us so long to get rid of the worst parts of that team to rebuild a new team? And it's just, it's given every manager problems. We can sit here and say, well, every manager comes in, they want to have a look at them. Bullshit. Mourinho asked for a centre-back, got Joe Rodon. Conte asked for a centre-back, got Langley on loan. Ironically, the most money they spent on a centre-back was under Nuno when he asked for one on Romero. But we have not been proactive enough about fixing the problems and getting players in these positions because these players don't want to go anywhere. So that brings me on to my next point. I'm at the point, guys, this cannot fester on any longer. We might... There's an option there that we might have to hit the low market and start loaning these guys out again. But all you're doing is delaying the problem and delaying the rebuild even longer. We cannot keep going through this cycle. And for me, we have to be done with it this summer. So I would want the club to start paying up contracts to get these players out of here. But where are you with it, Sean? Are you prepared if the club need to for them to hit the low market again? Or do you want it just done and dusted now this window? We have to start being ruthless with it.
I don't really care about the loan market. Like, it's irrelevant to me at this stage in the window. If you can't sell Ndombele and the other option is to tear up his contract or to let him sit in the youth team or whatever, then loan him out. Like, if you get 20% of his salary paid, 30% of his salary paid, and it still helps. It's all unfortunately the problem with these contracts are once you sign the dotted line. If they get injured or if they don't perform, then you're stuck wearing, holding the baby. And I think with Ndombele, that's a really expensive experience that we've gone through.
Expensive baby.
He's a very expensive baby. He really is. And I think that you can make the same argument. Like, I don't know why Lloris hasn't gone yet. Obviously, he's in no rush to find his own new home because he's picking up $100,000 a week. Like, tearing up the contracts essentially means if you're going to ask someone to leave and I'm going to just get you off the squad books, then you're going to have well, yeah, you got to pay the rest unless they are willing to meet in the middle, right? And with people like Ndombele, who are still owed 20 odd million quid in wages, you might be able to get a deal where you say, listen, if I tear it up, we'll give you 6 or 7, right? But then that allows you, or we give you 10, that then allows you to go and find a new home, and you can still earn their salaries as well, get their signing bonuses as well, right? So you're not necessarily out of pocket, but at least allows you to kind of restart your career. I just think that guy personally doesn't care about his career. I think as soon as he signed that contract, he was like, thanks very much. My family's done. I'm cool for the next 2 generations or 3 generations. See you later. And that's a shame. So players like Lloris, I think that, look, to answer your question, mate, the loan market is irrelevant to me. If we can't sell them, loan them out, whatever, it doesn't bother me because it's not a problem.
At what point, though, Sean, do you weigh up? I get what you're saying about loaning them out and we can get their wages, majority of them covered or whatever. But what point do you weigh up money over progress?
Well, I don't really see what hindrance is it.
We've seen the hindrance that's had this summer. We can't get them out, and it's going to keep being the same problem. It's been that for a number of transfer windows now, and it's hindering what we can do in terms of bringing in players. It's hindering what we can do in terms of giving these managers the proper sort of rebuild that they need.
I see. Yeah, I say yes and no. Like, so I think it became a problem when we screwed up with Matt Doherty in January. Right, that was an obvious example where we ended up having to tear up a contract that we otherwise would have not needed to. I think if we have an abundance of talent if we're a Chelsea who going out and picking up every 18-year-old for 20 million here, 20 million there, and you want to loan them out, and unfortunately you don't want to loan them out into the Premier League, you want to loan them overseas, then you only have 8 spots. So there's a limit on how much of your abundance of talent that you can send overseas where they're not affecting you. But with Tottenham, we're nowhere near that. At Tottenham, it's just a case of what we're using our loan market for overseas generally is to send people that we don't want around the club away for a little while. Until we got through that system where we've figured out, a better scouting model. Once we've got a scouting model that's identifying, maybe in a couple of years' time, Beliz, Ashley Phillips, maybe these guys that are coming up, Dorrington, all that sort of that level, that caliber, maybe we want to send them away into Europe to give them some experience. But until then, for me, I don't think it's a hindrance. I don't think it's holding us back particularly. Look, if it's a quick fix, if we can get players out on loan, then I'm okay with it. I'd obviously still rather sell some of these players, but for me, I don't really find the loan system at the moment a problem for Tottenham too much.
Fair enough. And Brain, same sort of a question to you, but also with Jory, would you now keep Sanchez with the window coming to a close? You know, I'm not sure whether Jory's saying keep Sanchez because maybe he might be able to work on his brain and get him to sort of, read the game maybe a bit better and stuff like that. But you know, it was a great segue into maybe rounding off this talking point. But where are you at with it now? Does the club have to be done with it this summer now and not let it continue, or are you with Sean? You're not fussed, just getting them out one way or another and hit the loan market if we have to.
Yeah, no, I mean it's hit the loan market, but it's just a problem for next season. You know, I really would like Ange to have a bare bones of a squad that we then build upon. You know, like I would really only prefer the loan players for like people who have a chance of coming back in. Like, so I'd like to see someone on loan who is going to go and develop, you know? So like your Harveys, your kids who you actually think we could really, you know, for me, I'd have Skip on loan. I just don't rate Skip at all for like what we need. And maybe, and at this point I would even almost be up for selling Skip, but I'm not going to open that whole, you know, it's another Pandora's box there. But I would just prefer that they just did a bit of hard work, and if they cannot, by the end of this window, if they cannot get the main big ones out like Dyer, Davies, it shouldn't be hard to get Dyer and Davies new homes. Like they're kind of decent sized names. That like Davies can probably go to the Championship, go to Cardiff and be a fucking legend there. You know, you've got Dyer, go to Sporting, homecoming king, go play Champions League. You know, like he'd be landing on his feet. Like these are really good situations. And with Sanchez, like, yeah, I see this, like, you know, how long is this going to last? This kind of Sanchez renaissance, you know, I wouldn't be buying in too heavily. I'd love it if we had, you know, if we can get, who cares? If you get rid of Tanganga on an actual sale, great. You need to loan him, fine, but you're not going to have him in next time. Like, I'd love if we exited this window with Schur at the back, waiting to come in, and Phillips waiting to come in. And then you had your Romero and your Van de Ven. I'd be all right with that. But if you if you couldn't get rid of Sanchez, I think Sanchez little, like the way he's playing now, I think that helps get rid of him. I think that helps get him out the door because he's on some form. People, if they're watching the Barcelona game, if they watch that game, Brentford, he's on form. Like get him out. So I think, I mean, this is just me trying to be logical, and that doesn't really work if you do that math with Spurs sometimes. We just never seem to do the logical thing. I would say by the end of this window, it's a lot to do, but just tear up if it's a case of like a couple mil or 3 mil left on a contract, tear it up and just move on. It's too much hassle otherwise, you know.
I'm with you. At some point, this has to come to an end, and we have to let a manager fully move on from the past. Many people said you got to let go of Harry Kane. You know, you got to move on from it. Well, that also applies the same with a lot of these guys as well who offered nowhere near what certain others we've let go in the past, not just Harry Kane, Ericsson, people like that contributed towards the football club on the pitch. But, Jerry, I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, but are you maybe hinting at giving Sanchez a second chance? I'd be surprised if you are.
I think he's saying he's a lesser of two evils, but, you know.
Best of the rest.
Yeah, knowing Jari, I think he'd be quite happy. Look, we'll all be having a party if Dyer's out, you know.
Well, we have a follow-up from Ryan Mann, and we'll get to that now in 1 second. But big up, Marek, become a new member of the channel. Big yourself up. Hope you enjoy all the members-only content designed for all of the members around this season, my man. Hope you can get involved with it as well. So big up, Marek. And he says the reason for joining is, I've been watching for a long time, love the content, so I've decided to become the first Flat Cap member. Big up, guys. Big up, Marek. Make sure you get into the Fantasy Football League, by the way. See if you can beat myself and Jack. You had a good, strong opening weekend, the middle of the pack.
Not difficult to beat Dave. Not difficult to beat Dave. Can I remind everybody that Dave triple captain Virgil van Dyer?
Hey, that was my rookie season, Shawnee. That was the rookie season.
First week of the season, he went, oh, wait a minute, what, can you triple captain someone? Okay, let me triple captain Virgil van Dijk for Liverpool.
You know what, though?
And he never changed his team once for the 38 weeks.
Do you know what? I had a mare the opening weekend. I forgot to put certain players in. I mean, Evan Ferguson scored. I had him on the bench. Estupinian got an assist. I had him on the bench. And I had someone like Ben Mee and someone else starting. I had a mare in terms of that regard. But look, we won't get into that. But Ryan, Rain Man, big yourself up. He says, what a movie, by the way, as well. He says, we have years of performance evidence with Davies, Dyer, Sanchez, yet people think 2 half-decent games from Sanchez means we should keep him. And look, I'm taking myself out of this because I still want him gone. But you guys can answer this one because I think it's more aimed at you.
I don't think you keep either of those 3. I think he's probably playing for his life, trying to like stay in this team. But I think it's also a bit of shop window stuff. So use it as shop window stuff. Put a compilation of some of his best stuff. I mean, honestly, in that one game, he against Barcelona, he did look really impressive. But I don't think it's nowhere near enough for me. It's just a matter of time before he starts falling over air again. So and Davies is a limited player, not fast enough to play in that line. And Dyer, where's he gone? Yeah. So no, Dyer, no. All 3 of them. I'm just tired. I'm tired of them being at our club.
Yeah,
and I would rather go. You know what I'd rather do? I'd rather go into the season short. I'd rather go into the season short of players. I'd rather go into the season short and move Emerson into a centre back position. Honestly, I just don't want them there anymore. And I think this is the last real chance for us to get them out.
For sure. And Sean, he's saying basically, there's no way we should be keeping Sanchez around here. Don't be fooled by the 2 games.
No, well, I don't want him to start games. I want us to bring in another centre-back ahead of him and then hope that we get lucky with injuries. But I don't think we're going to bring in 2 centre-backs at this stage. I think, if I'm entirely honest, I think that the best option for Tottenham is to go and buy one of those utility players that cover the right-back and the right-sided centre-back. Benjamin Pavard is a good example of one of those. And then someone behind him is Bugsy's here. Someone else who's another good example is a bit cheaper option is Gertruida from over in Holland as well. I forget where he plays now. My mind's gone blank. But my point is that I feel like if you have to have people behind your front 2 or 3 options, then Sanchez is probably better than Davies and Dyer.
Yeah,
fair enough. And look, also, Jack makes the argument sometimes Sanchez is better up in the other box than what he is down in our own box. So maybe he's a secret weapon up front. But I'll close your ears when I say that, Rain Man. You'd probably go absolutely nuts, my man. And we've got one here from Jory. And then after this, I want to get into 2 more subjects. They're not going to be as long to get through. And they basically are, can Tottenham become a better team without Harry Kane? Because that should be the aim of over a transfer window. You'd be better than the season before. And then the last one I want to talk about is Gio Vio not being a part of the team, losing 16 goals that his set pieces helped contribute last season. But before we get on to that, Jerry says, I am saying Ange might be up for the Sanchez challenge, considering the potential. With Dyer, there's no challenge or potential to be had.
Yeah, look, I'd agree with that.
I get it. But for me, look, we make this mistake every single summer. Before it was with Winks, every manager or every single summer, maybe you can come in and do this and do that. We just got to accept that we didn't buy well. In my opinion, we didn't buy well, and we've got to ship them on. We shouldn't be, and as fans, we shouldn't be put in this position every summer that we're, come the end of it, we're looking at the scraps that we have and looking to make them fit. Again, it's square pegs, round holes. Yeah. I'm absolutely fed up with it. For me, if we're going with a complete new era, that means getting rid of these guys. They've had their chance over the last 3-4 years to be able to contribute, even Davinson Sanchez, and he's failed to do that, and look, I get we're playing a different system and he looks okay now, but let's not forget, a lot of these players have shown glimpses under previous managers before when they first came in and ultimately ended up reverting back to type. Under Jose Mourinho, these guys helped get us to the top of the league, ended up reverting back to type. Under Conte, they got us to Champions League. We were all expecting, look, let's use this as a base to kick on. A lot of them ended up reverting back to type the following season. So for me, I ain't going to make this same mistake again. I just want them all gone. Although I do hear the argument. And if we do have to keep one around for squad depth purposes, I can understand it. But I don't want to see any of them here personally. But I understand it. So big up, Jory. Really appreciate the support, my man. Now, look, we'll get into my next talking point, the second or third talking point here today. And we'll start with you on this one. Start with you, Shawnee. Can Spurs improve and be a better team than last season, despite selling Harry Kane? Because surely improvement on last season should be the goal. Or do you think we could be worse off, or maybe sort of similar, but just more pleasing on the eye?
No, look, I think if it's on a one season checkpoint, then I think that no, I don't think Tottenham will be as good. I think that Tottenham will look better, but we won't convert as many chances. I think we've already sacrificed 2 points for Harry Kane's absence. I think that will continue to be the case, even if we sign Orban or Blairwich. I think there's going to be moments like it's Harry Kane, right? You know, I think we're never going to be able to recreate that. What you are going to look for is other players to step up, and what we didn't see against Brentford was other players stepping up. We didn't see Sonny step up. Like, I'm not talking about Maddison. I thought he had a great game, but of the players that we were looking for last year to step up with the ball, and we made this conversation earlier, Dave, that I think people are going to be harsh on Decky with the ball, but they should be a little bit more lenient with him off the ball because of what he did to get the ball back. But Decky, Sonny, and Richarlison were terrible in the final third with the ball. And that is, if we're going to do as well or better than last year, despite playing brilliant football and having 70% possession, then you need your front three to be clinical, and they certainly weren't. So, but I do think so, and so consequently, I don't think that necessarily this season is a year to judge us on versus the absence of Harry Kane. Next season, if we can keep Ange, if Ange doesn't get fired within a year for the first manager in 5 years or whatever, if we can keep him and then let him cook, let him build, go again in January, go again next summer, I think next season will be the season where we can start to think, are we past Harry Kane? Are we moved on, and can we go again? Right now, I think this is too much of a transformational year.
And do you think, Sean, like, you know, you sort of alluded to it earlier, but sort of stabilising this season, continue to get rid of the deadwood and continue to sort of pick up players. Do you think next season then we could go on and sort of maybe achieve greater heights than what maybe we did with Harry Kane then? Do you think we could be in that position?
Yeah, but again, mate, there's Tottenham fans always just look, not to disrespect them, but I feel like people just look insularly at Tottenham Hotspur. Are we better than we were last year? If so, great. That means we could be challenging for the title. If not, we'd be bottom half. It all depends on what other teams are doing. A lot of people think Aston Villa are becoming this major threat. I don't think they are. I really don't. Like, I've had
this row
against
Newcastle. They were bad.
They were awful against Newcastle. It's funny when like all of the people that were like waxing lyrical about Aston Villa, they went very quiet after that game. Like, I don't think Aston Villa are this big giant threat that people think they are. Newcastle United, it's going to be interesting to see how they go again when they've got right now they're at the start of a season. They were brilliant against Aston Villa at home, and I think that every team is going to fear going to Newcastle unless Newcastle have got a major Champions League game in a couple of days afterwards, right? So there's variables, and I think that you can't just always worry about Tottenham Hotspur. If you're going to have these conversations around whether Tottenham are going to end up more or less successful relative to the year before, then you have to bake in what other teams are doing. And right now, you know, Liverpool look a mess. Liverpool were a lot of people's tips to finish second or third, presuming they were going to get a DM. They haven't right at the moment. Manchester United, everyone was thinking they were going to push for a title challenge. They got absolutely battered by Wolves. Aston Villa, people were thinking were going to be spectacular. They were absolutely atrocious. Pau Torres looked like a £10 million defender. Newcastle looked good. Chelsea, who the hell knows what team they're going to end up with when the window's closed? Right? They're moving players in and out like a revolving door policy. I don't know right now. It's too early to tell, but I genuinely do think that Tottenham this season shouldn't be judged on where we finish. We should be judged on if there's stability and if it's things that we want to see happening, and we can give a bit of patience. And then next season will be the year to figure it out.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Congo Dub says some would step up just like he did when Kane got injured over the years, when Kane formed it, when Son helped us the most to get in the Champions League with Conte. Look, I understand that, but when Son wasn't chipping in with the goals, Harry Kane stepped up, and Harry Kane stepped up twice at the rate Sonny did, and we can't be naive to that. You have to accept that. And for me, I do think Sonny will step up, and I think he'll have a good season. But he still needs that help that Harry Kane and others gave him all them seasons ago. It hasn't just been a one-man show. It's been a couple of people that have stepped in, and I do think, we are going to need that. But Brains, is that the difference this season between sort of maybe kicking on or not? Is that striker and that centre-back just 2 signings?
So I actually think this is like the crux of everything right now, of like absolutely everything that's good and bad, and a massive problem that probably everyone isn't viewing. I've been in teams where you have a really good player in the team, or you have an amazing player in one, and the worst thing that you can do, although it's just, a kind of reaction of having an amazing, outstanding player, is that you build everything around him. And that is actually like the worst thing you can do, because all it does is it takes responsibility, it takes autonomy away from other players, and then you get top heavy, or you like with Harry Kane, you just become a counter-attacking team because you need him space, you need people to play him in, and so the aim this season should be to not become a one-man team. So I think we will achieve that. But that's easy to achieve, right? You just start playing better football with more people involved. You build a more balanced team. We've already done that. Believe it or not, we've actually already achieved the goal of becoming a better team without Harry Kane. That doesn't mean that we are going to be a team that's going to win more games. There is a big problem that is developing already. Well, I'd say it's developing. It's maybe just more they haven't understood something about the style of play. You cannot, like what's happening right now is we're dominating the ball, but there's also this kind of rush and get into their half, hold them here, dominate the ball here. That is wrong. That's a problem, because what happens when you dominate the ball in your opponent's half? Pass, move. You get countered. They just sit behind the ball, and what happens? Becomes extremely difficult to score goals. Harry Kane in this team with this style of play would find it difficult for him to score goals, because all you do when you pack a team up and you create that basketball D shape, they all just fall in. It becomes hard. There's less space to play. So what Spurs have to learn to do now, and this is why you need ball playing centre backs, an incredible CDM, which we have, which is great. You need to be able to play from the back, but you also need to bang, Sar, Basuma, that they do well in this. Bang, bring them in, play. Don't just turn and go. Don't go long. Bring them in. Then you need Maddison. He did it a couple times against Brentford, which is really impressive, where he comes in to the halfway line and then he just drops his shoulder and goes. Then you have Son who can come in. Then you have the angled balls through. That's how you would do it. You put in a ball through the lines, and then they put it across to the centre forward to be in the danger zone behind the defence, tapping the ball home. But you cannot do that if you are trying to dominate the ball high up. You're supposed to, if they lose the ball, then they take up that formation and they go in and they do a high press. But for me, I see it as, it's beautiful to see hundreds of passes, but there's no utility to it, because all you're doing is giving the team time to formulate a plan behind the ball. So everyone's going, it's beautiful style. It's beautiful.
Yeah, possession for possession's sake is irrelevant. You got to find a way to break it down.
You've got to score goals. So for me, I still think getting someone in, like the team has to adapt to playing. And obviously, he's not had enough time. He's just getting them to play the ball fast and move. So they'll do that. They'll learn that. But for the love of God, you need a great striker who's going to play the 9 role properly. And you can't keep fighting this thing where he wants players to challenge, go to the line and cut back for the tap in. And we have players who want to cut inside and angle in to curve balls into the far post. It's like, well, which is it? Because currently, right now, we're not playing a style of football that allows either. So that's the big problems for me. So I think, we'll become a better team. We're already seeing the starts of something really positive, and it's great. I love it. But it's also, for me as a striker watching it, unbelievably frustrating to see, because it's like there's no angles here. There's no angles being created. Like it's too crowded. You don't have an intelligent enough striker who's going to come in and then go or make darting runs. You don't have that. And I don't know if Son would be that. Actually, rethinking about it, I was saying I'd love Son to be the 9. I don't know if he would. He would have 2 feet to strike into either corner, but
he's got no head, mate. He's got no head.
Yeah.
Part of the prerequisite is to put balls into the box in the air as well.
Yeah, that's a big thing as well. And that whole not having a striker who's got any aerial. Look, obviously, if Richarlison plays, you've got a real problem. You can't have Sonny playing because Perisic got to play because Perisic can put beautiful balls in. Sonny isn't going to put beautiful balls in. He wants to be in part of shooting and scoring goals. He wants to make those runs. So you've got 2 players who are trying to do the same thing, and one's just a little bit further out. You can see it's not really working. If Perisic plays, if Richarlison plays, Perisic has to play. If Sonny plays, Perisic doesn't play. And
also, it's also the same for the other wing, right? You still can't have Kulu on the other wing cutting in. You have to go with Solomon, a right footer, on the right side, or push Sonny across.
Yeah,
because I agree with you. I think you're absolutely spot on there. Look, it's just up to Tottenham to go and get the business done. We'll take the super chat from Paul Markey. Then I want to move on and I want to talk a little bit about Gio, and then we'll get you guys off for the evening. Paul Markey says, David, you need to realize we haven't had a manager in a long time, only coaches. As long as this continues, we are going nowhere and must be a manager. Do you know what, Paul Markey? Plenty of other people would say we've had managers, but we haven't had coaches.
I would have said
that. The complete opposite.
I think he is a coach, and I think he is a manager. I think it's the right way around that we got it now. Like we've had these pragmatists, and I think now we've got a guy who's actually going to go and coach things. You can see their bones of it working.
Do you know what it is with Ange Postecoglou? I don't think he has the ego that a Jose and a Conte carry with them. And what I mean by that is Ange Postecoglou isn't above getting on the training pitch and getting his hands dirty with the players and constantly drilling in the same messages, because he's still on the path to achieving greatness. Whereas Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho already achieved greatness, and they're coming to Tottenham Hotspur, basically looking for Spurs to bring in the caliber of players without them having to actually train them and drill them in maybe some of the basics of football and stuff like that. They want guys who are already made it, who are already football intelligent. They just have to give them a couple of meetings and then off they go. But look, also at Tottenham, we have to remember we don't do managers, right? They were all, it was changed to head coaches, wasn't it? Wasn't that Pochettino's job was titled that? And I think every other manager has been titled that since head coaches. But look, with Ange Postecoglou, and we also have to understand as well, with Jose Mourinho and with Conte, they weren't being given a fair chance to be a manager, because whatever decisions they made or whatever they said to players in and around the place, if they didn't like it, they could go to Daniel. And that's been a huge, huge problem, which undermines your manager, but also undermines your captain, which shows there's no leadership or no one running the ship bar Daniel Levy, because if players who are at the bottom rung making mistakes week in, week out can go and they go and speak to Daniel Levy and they outlast other people that have achieved stuff in the games, you've got a real problem. Whereas, now hopefully Daniel Levy learns he needs to take a back step, and that a manager sometimes has to have the final say on some of the stuff, on whether players play or not, whether, sometimes you have to give that manager that final decision rather than taking it out of his hands, because all you're doing is undermining him. And eventually, once you keep undermining someone who's supposed to be in a position of power, the inevitable is going to happen, that someone is going to get pissed off, and that manager is always going to be the one to pay the price. Any of you guys want to come in on that?
I agree. I mean, I wouldn't even have anything else to add. I agree 100% on that.
Yeah, same, to be honest, buddy. I think you're spot on.
Big up, Paul Markey. I'm speaking wax and lyricals here tonight, apparently. So big up, Paul Markey. Really appreciate support. But let me know what you think on that as well. Paul Markey, big yourself up, my man. Great to see you in the building. And then last thing I want to talk about, boys, is, of course, we got the news today that set-piece specialist Gianni Vio is not a part of Postecoglou's new era. Now, set pieces is an area we really struggled in. And some would argue, look, defensive set pieces, he hasn't really contributed too much because it's still a problem. But going forward, he contributed a fair amount. Of course, he's famous for having over 4,000, I think it's 830 set piece designs. But, his set pieces led to 16 goals from us to us last season, and they're not all Harry Kane goals, by the way. These goals are spread out around the team. So, you're taking a percentage of goals out of the team, but how much are we taking out? Sean would make a good point that, we are going to score some goals from set pieces. We already scored one at the weekend. However, I do think that you're not going to end up getting anywhere near the same amount over the course of this season. And for me, I worry because you took 30 goals from Harry Kane out of the team. You're now losing 16 goals in a specialised area. And by the way, I was listening to Ben Mee do a podcast with Ben Foster the other day, and he was talking about how Brentford prioritise set pieces, and they actually get bonuses from scoring and defending set pieces because of the percentage that the data analysis have worked out that it can contribute towards goals and chances, etc. I think he said that it works out. Doing it right, I think you have a higher percentage of scoring from a set piece than any other sort of avenue. So it's very interesting to hear that. Is this a smart move by Post-Kane? Why do you think maybe he's made this move? Because for me, I think we're missing a trick here. I think Post-Kane on this one maybe has got it wrong and probably could have worked with Gianni Vio. We'll go to you on this one first. Well, whoever wants to come in first there, guys.
Oh, listen, I'll just go quickly on it, mate. I don't get, like, how much does this guy get paid? 200 grand a year, 500 grand a year. I've got no idea how much he gets paid, right? But it really isn't that difficult for someone to organise set pieces from corner kicks.
But it's modern football, Sean. You've got specialists for everything
no,
nowadays.
I'm sorry. This guy wasn't even in charge of defensive set pieces, only offensive set pieces. We have to go and pay another guy 200 grand to get him in to go, oh no, because it's that much more difficult to organise defensive set pieces. Like, I ain't got no time for it. I have absolutely no time for it. This is not American football. This is football. Okay. Like, surely Ange Postecoglou can organise a backline. Alex Ferguson never had a set piece coach to tell people where to stand and where to sit. Okay, I know that there was a couple of things, but by the way, like, after like week 1 of last season, when we saw the Perisic corner and it was Longley who came in short and flicked it on the top of his head and it got to the back post, like. That we saw that week 1, we saw it week 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15. We saw that same set piece basically every game the entire season. It worked a couple of times. Like, you don't need to pay someone. You don't need to pay someone however much that guy's getting paid to practice that thing. Once you see it, like, it's like someone in the digital marketing world who you go, hey, listen, mate, can you make me a thumbnail for every YouTube stream? And I'll pay you whatever it is a month. Or how about you pay them once to create a template and then you can figure it out by filling in the details yourself. I just don't think that these guys are worth. I don't think that Giovanni Villa is worth the worry. I'm sure that Ange Postecoglou went in and went, yeah, I got this one, bro. You're not that important. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that complicated. I'm sorry. If he hasn't even got the stones to handle the defensive side, which is, by the way, where our biggest threat is. He can't even handle that. All he wants to do is handle the offensive side. Not for me. See you later, Gio.
On the offensive side, though, Sean, you're not concerned about the amount of goals that were taken out of the team this summer, because for me, you have to acknowledge the 30 goals that Harry Kane scores, but also you have to acknowledge that he yielded us 16 goals last season. You put them to
yield us 16 goals.
46 goals out of 70 in the Premier League last season that we scored.
He didn't yield us that.
Well, he's designed.
He scored a few goals from set pieces. Come on, bro.
If I'm honest,
that's like me saying I'm going to teach someone how to throw a ball in from the side. I'm going to say, like, you get the ball right and you make sure it's behind your head and you make sure you keep your foot on the ground. Otherwise, you're going to give away like a foul throw, and then you throw it. And if it gets there, then I've done my job. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. It's not that complicated. It's not that deep. It's not.
I think Ange is like quite old school as well. That he doesn't want to overcomplicate things, and he would have seen that extra guy and gone, nah. Like, you know, the thing I love at clubs is when a coach goes, all right, you know, like you get 3 or 4 players who are brilliant at it. Like, and you make a little committee of players and they work on plays. Like in American football, the quarterback coach isn't always the guy. The quarterback's coming up with a lot of the plays. And then the quarterback coach kind of brings his side in. But it's really got to be down to players. Like if you take out more hardcore would have been if you take out Perisic from the amount of goals from set pieces last season, then it would have been very, you know, so I think maybe the increase in goals had a lot to do with Perisic's pinpoint accuracy 100%. Of where he could play the ball, you know. So
100%.
I would love to, if we've got Perisic for one last year.
I was stealing a living. Stealing a living.
If we've got Perisic for one last season, I would hope that we use him well, like use his mind for helping players train how to take perfect corners. The amount of teams that blow chances on corners, to be able to have a person like him who can put the ball exactly where it is, but then also have the right players and the right signals, hand signals. I don't know if you guys watch closely hand signals.
I remember Darren Anderson, mate, for 10 years when I was a child. He'd go, you do this, corner kick, one hand up, two hands up, and then one of the hands would come down again, and then he'd kick the ball. And he went.
Do you know I love the socks?
Different places. It went where it went because he wasn't that accurate with his corner kicks. These routines are nonsense. Just put it in the danger area. Put it in the 6-yard box. You're fine.
Yeah, I'm all for player committees when it comes to like free kicks. Like, I don't want to see Dyer anywhere near a free kick ever again in my life. I don't want to see him in the pitch. I want to have Maddison and Perisic around every single free kick. Like, have the two of them there. And if Porro's on the field, maybe. But I say, like, everything is just Maddison and Perisic when it comes to free kicks.
Hold up. Sorry. Can you bring up Cratch? I love Cratch. Bring up Cratch's comment, 828. I didn't say set pieces are not that important. I said that the role of a offensive set piece coordinator is not that important. I'm sure that there's a normal coach that's getting paid to coach the team in other areas. Or Ange Postecoglou can say, well, how about you run to the near post or do what the Anderton Sheringham thing where they play it back. I don't think you need to employ a coordinator who's only competent in the offense, not in the defense. I'm not saying that set pieces are not important. I'm saying the role of a set piece offensive coordinator is over the top. That's what I'm saying, Cratch. I love you, but don't misinterpret what I'm saying, bro.
Only over here could you have an argument over set pieces. Absolutely love it. But you know what? Look, I would argue, is it becoming more important in the modern game? Because the modern game is being more driven by data and analysis and numbers and everything else than what it was under previous years. And look, I get the everything around the set piece remains the same. A good set piece taker and players that are hungry to go and meet that ball, that are just absolute animals and savages, you will always sort of score goals from it. And I get that. But with the data-driven analysis and everything, more clubs now. You look at Liverpool; they've even got a throw-in specialist.
Madness,
they do. But more clubs are operating that. You look at Brighton and Brentford; they especially like Brentford, like Ben Mee was talking about. I urge people to go and listen to that podcast he done with Ben Foster. But it's becoming more and more.
Would you take a job?
The money that's in the game, everyone's looking to take an advantage or looking to get a steal on every minute bit of piece of the game. These data analysis companies have broken it completely down into all.
I completely understand that. I'm just saying that if someone turns around, it's like in normal offices right now. You have like chief executive officer of like wokeism or whatever. Like, you have people that are employed just to find, those sorts of issues, talk about those sorts of things. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or good thing. I'm not saying politics, but I'm just saying, like, if there's someone who's a throwing specialist, you're getting paid a yearly salary. You're getting paid a yearly salary to do that?
What's the offended Sean's faces?
I mean, come on. What are we doing here?
Do you know what?
You don't need a specialist to analyze throw-ins. You need someone to say, all right, when we do throw-ins, mate, you do a little jink this way. You don't need a specialist of throw-ins to tell you that. Just a coach who knows football. There's someone who's already hanging around the place. They're probably stealing a living anyway as well. But, like, you don't need a specialist. Come on.
Look, if this ever gets too much for me, at least I know there's a job in football. I can go become a set piece specialist or a team making specialist or something like that. Brains, any final thoughts on it, my man?
No, I'm trying to think of what other kind of specialists I can
H2O
do.
Specialist, also
water boy specialist.
Yeah, listen, let me filter that water just the right way. I've been looking at the data for a long time. Apparently, you need your water wet.
I want to be a sock specialist and run on and just make the slits at the back of the sock so that it lets the cast breathe more. Yeah, no, it's all about that. I would have been more impressed if you actually saw some really smart set pieces happen when he came in. Like, if it was like really clever stuff. But I remember seeing them try some weird stuff and it just completely fell apart. It's like, you guys aren't training that.
No,
You know?
the only move that worked, we saw one corner kick move that worked. And it was the near post and then hit the top of the head and flick it onto the back post. We saw that work 4 or 5 times. Apart from that, the rest of those 16 goals that Cratch likes to talk about, 20% goal minimum, all that nonsense. The rest of them, there was no rhythm or routine to it. It was just corners that were smashed into the area. They like a defender didn't quite clear it properly. It fell down to someone who knocked it around the end of the back of the net. There was no speciality about it.
Do the math. How many assists did Perisic get?
12, was it? 12?
Yeah.
No, but not all from corner kicks, were they?
But
not all from corner
kicks. There's your specialist, you know?
Yeah, exactly. He's the guy. He can put the ball in a sixpence. If you don't have him, then Villa is irrelevant.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, you make good points. But you know what? At least we now know what we found. What gets Sean's cage going. Anyway, we found the magic.
Well,
but everybody,
people that are stealing livings, yeah, that really does get my goat. Yeah.
Sean goes up to a girl in the club, yeah, where he's got his good shirt on. She's an 8. You know, starts flirting with her. He says, "So what do you do?" She's like, "Oh, I'm a specialist." Ah!
Well, look, why we take this super chat and why we go around and find out where you can find these boys. Why not end it on a high, everybody? Let's put in your funniest, specialist into the chat. Let's have a good giggle. You guys out there are always good with stuff like that. But Paul Markey says, Orban is a waste of money. We have 2 young strikers. Brains, I'll throw this one at you, my man. Me and Sean have been talking about Orban all day, so we'll give you this one.
Orban is it's not a waste of money because of what he's shown so far. He's an like out and out natural goal scorer. He's strong as hell. We don't have anyone with his body type, with his speed. We just don't have it. We don't have someone who breaks a line like him. We don't have someone who can dribble like him. We don't have someone who can hit the ball from those angles like him. Like if you go and watch him, and just even recently the other day, like the type of goals he was scoring. No, we don't have anyone like that. We right now are carrying a player who is terminally unconfident, who is going through something, and that's not going to get any better until he scores, But the thing with Richarlison, he's going to score 1 goal every now and then, and it's going to be a worldie, and that's just not going to do it for him. It really is not going to do it for him. Consistent goal scoring, consistently getting in the right places, not being on the pitch and having such a bad demeanor, I was offside again. It's well, learn how to run the line. Learn how to lose your man. This is difficult for him. I can see, genuinely, I never thought he was a centre forward at Everton. I'm looking at him and he ain't no centre forward. I'm sorry. People are saying, oh, he's in the team because he was off the ball movement. No, he's not. He is not a centre forward. He is a hassler. He can do some good work. He could probably do some skills and stuff. But he misreads when a playmaker is on the ball. He misreads the timing of his run. He's not understanding how close he is to the centre back. He's not doing anything to engage the centre back's mind. As a centre forward, you're supposed to, off the ball, you're supposed to make the centre back's life a living hell. You run around them, you go away from them, you come in close, you dig them in the back, you hit them in the ribs, you say something horrifying about their grandmother who just died, whatever. You just make them want to kill you. You make them just absolutely, or you stay quiet and you stay away from them and you hover and you hover and you hover, then bang, you're in. He's not thinking. Being a striker is such a thinking job, man. And you have to have attributes. He doesn't have it. Gift Orban, he has that. He pops up in positions and then bang, he's away. His change of speed when he gets on a ball near a centre back, he glides past the guy. So honestly, go and watch that guy. And other strikers right there are amazing. Veliz is going to take some time. He actually could be great. He could be that target man. So I got some hope for him. I got more hope for him, if I'm really honest, than what I'm seeing from Richarlison. But yeah, we don't really have 2 young strikers that we can use right now.
Well, there you are, Paul Markey. Brains does disagree. Look, I think it's a huge gamble. I'm not going to say it's a waste of money. I think it's a waste of money that you could be putting towards someone like a Dusan Vlahovic with added cash. But look, you know, there's potential there. It's one that hopefully the club have weighed up and decided that this guy is a sure thing. We've missed out on players like Kim Min-jae, Kavicha, people like that before. However, I would rather just get someone that sort of I know is going to score me goals. But look, we're at where we're at, Paul Markey.
Dave, I would pay 80 million, but I saw you guys talking earlier on today. I would pay 80 million for Ferguson. And I know that's going to annoy Sean. I can already see him getting angry. No, but I genuinely would, because I think you're buying a generation 10-year talent. I've seen everything I've seen about him, the way he moves. It's intelligent. Like he buys himself space. You talked about
£80 million for Evan Ferguson. Are you mad?
He's good though, Payne.
Have you seen? Sean, tell me you've seen a player his age with his head on him that understands how to play that centre forward role at that age, who can take a ball out of the air. He's got unbelievable.
Dele Alli.
Yeah, but that's a generational talent. Like you would have, if you could have got Dele Alli, knowing what he was going to give you over the next few years,
you wouldn't have paid 80 million quid for him. No, you wouldn't.
I don't know.
He found Fortnite and FIFA, and
but that you know that now with hindsight. But
what has Evan Ferguson done exactly? Explain to me. Apart from looking brilliant in a Brighton team, I'm not saying he's not a great talent.
Well,
he's a great prospect.
Exactly
You don't pay 80 million pounds. You don't pay 80 million pounds for prospects. Apart from Man United, who do it for Rasmus Højlund. And by the way, that's another absolutely ludicrous amount of money.
Dude, he's playing in the Premier League. He's so unbelievably young. What he came in, how many games did he play last season? 9. He scored 9 goals, 8 goals in the Premier League.
Let me get his stats up. I'm going to get his stats up here.
That was insane. And also some of his finishes were amazing. His off the ball running was incredible. I've not seen another centre forward who at that size who reminds me of Harry Kane. Since he's the first person I've seen that looks like Harry Kane, like the way he plays.
We barely got 80 million quid for Harry Kane now, who's 30 years old.
Hey, you want to solve the problem? Just take that money.
Harry Kane, and then you've got maybe Harry Kane, and you're going maybe Harry Kane's mini me, and you're going, oh, let's give 80 million quid over right now, because you know what? He reminds me of someone that was worth 100 million.
The only way I would agree with you is that paying a great player an obscene amount of money can kill their ambition and desire for the game. That's where I would.
That's not the only argument against it, mate. The other argument is he hasn't proven himself at this level. He's not worth it yet. And
he did last season. He did prove himself. He scored like 8 games in every start. Every time he came on the pitch, he scored for them. He did.
Okay. I can't even.
Look,
you're telling me you pay every penny.
Listen, don't you dare sell out your country.
No, look, what I will say is I think I agree with Brains on everything he said about Evan Ferguson. However, I would not sanction 80 million for him.
Listen, I agree with everything that he said about. I agree with everything he said about the player. My problem wasn't with his analysis of the player. My problem is the fact that he's ready to write off 80 bar on this kid. Dave, how much did you pay for Evan?
For better money.
So,
it's not my fucking money. It's not my money.
Anyway,
not my money.
Shawnee the outlet says, "Come on, Sean. No hate towards throwing specialists. You're spreading misinformation."
No, listen. I'm sure these guys are brilliant technicians. And listen, you got to learn very quick. You know, from your elbow, you got to throw from your elbow. Otherwise, you might somehow pull one of the muscles in your back or something. These guys need that 100 grand a year for sure. Well done to them. They are very relevant people. Big up the old lad.
Let's go get Gift Orban. Let's just go get Gift Orban.
No. I want to hear more about your 80 million pound check writing spree. Who else you got on there?
If I've got 80 million, I would get Orban. I'd get Sure. Yeah, Orban and Sure. I think that
God knows what you do with 200 million.
Hey, I've blown $1 million in a year before. Don't leave me with your fucking bank book.
With 200 million,
Sean, we'd have a good time in the club. We'd have a good time in the club, Sean. You got up making an ass.
We'd definitely be going home with a couple of eights. Couple of eights, we come home with us.
This planet good enough for you to pull 8s anymore.
Mia W says, Dave, my title is specialist at being a specialist. Look, it's one way of looking at it. Also a specialist at being deluded with that comment, I would say, but big yourself up, yeah. And then we also have Blackazini. He's a new channel member, so big yourself up, my man. Hope you enjoy a lot of the content that we'll be putting out throughout the season. We have derived a good, what I'd like to think, a good format for engagement with members throughout the season on members-only content. So hopefully you enjoy that, my man, and big yourself up. Look forward. Make sure you get involved in the Fantasy Football League as well. Head to the community section. The post should be there for that for you, my man. So big yourself up. But look, I think we'll call it an evening. I've really enjoyed this one. The boys, thank you very much for kicking us back off with these shows, every Tuesday and every Thursday. So, Shawnee, we'll start with you, brother. What's going on over at Spurs Talk Show?
Yes, same old. Walks every morning with my dog. Live streams at some point during the day. Sometimes it's 2 live streams. Sometimes and one walk. Sometimes it's going to be 2 videos and 1 live stream. I do actually have a show that's starting in an hour's time. A live stream at 9:45. So if anyone's still up and looking for something to do, then head on over to the Spurs Talk Show tonight. And I really appreciate your support, Dave. Thanks for having me. Always fun with you 3, or with you 2 as a 3 ball. Don't know if I'm coming or going. I don't know if I'm going home with an 8 or a 9 from the club, but I do know if I'm going with brains, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be a bloody expensive night.
You come back with 10s. But everybody, please check out Sean's channel. I was also on there earlier on. We had a very good discussion on a lot of things, so make sure you check that out. But get over there, like you said, streaming at 9:45. You said, Shawnee. So make sure you all get over there and check that out. The link for Sean's channel is in the chat. And Music Mad, Brains McLeod. What's going on with you, my man?
Well, normally you can always just get me on, at Brains McLeod anywhere, /Brains McLeod. But I am my football team that we've been building for a while. We're gonna start. Starting to upload our games, and pretty soon we're gonna start streaming them live. So every Friday we upload our game, and then pretty soon we're gonna start streaming the games live on Thursday nights. So head over to youtube.com/DeadlyVenomsFC and you can subscribe and watch me play football. And it's a bit of fun. Season just started. Get on board for the journey. See how we do. We're changing our
do you happen to have any spots available for a throwing specialist? I feel like I could offer a little bit of insight into.
So we can do tactics. We can analyze brains. We can analyze Brains' game.
Oh, I would like to do that. I'd do commentary on a Friday morning.
Our throwing specialists have to be able to pull at least a 9 or 10.
Fair enough.
But honestly, that's absolutely awesome. But Brains, actually, can you do me a favor, right? So I was watching the Arsenal game the other day against Nottingham Forest, of course, hoping that they would be made clowns of on the first game of the season. That didn't exactly go the way I wanted it to go. However, that song that they had before the game, it really gets everybody going, brings the fan and the players alike together.
Yeah.
You're actually slightly jealous of it. Is there anything you can do with your music or your music connections and maybe, make a song for us like that?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, a while ago, I actually started working on a song and it's got a banging hook. It's just a case of it's just putting the time to it to finish it and do it properly, and then thinking would the fan base take to this song? Maybe it's because I've got so busy on a lot of the work, it's kind of that I do. It's kind of do I go and spend 30 hours perfecting this track and then try release it? Because it's crossing over the brand. My music stuff really never deals with football stuff, because you could have your fans are fans of different football teams, and all of a sudden they're not your fan anymore because they know that you love, it's it kind of crosses over. But I genuinely would love to make just a super anthemic Spurs song, because we do need something to bring the fan base together. We need something before the games as well. It's just a hook that can just be played with banging music, that hook that just gets in everyone's head, that you want to sing, you want to feel a part of. We don't really have that just yet.
I'm on a mission to find someone that can do that. Shawnee, the song I'm talking about is North London Forever.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's an amazing song. That's a great song.
So there is, Yeah. So if there is anybody out there that can help me on my conquest to create a new song for the start of the games, please get in contact and let's make it happen. That'll be absolutely awesome.
Are we saying that Can't Smile Without You by...
Oh, come on.
That's not quite edgy enough, right?
I'd rather listen to Mozart, to be honest with you.
Like when that comes on in the stadium, it just puts me in this kind of like,
you feel like going to sleep.
It just doesn't.
I don't know why. I don't know why, but it reminds me of Dyer. It's very similar to his "I love Eric Dyer, Eric Dyer loves me" sort of song. We just need updated versions. But look, that's it from us. Hopefully everyone out there has enjoyed it. I want to say a massive thank you to Brains and Sean, first of all, for giving up their evening to come and join us for a chat this evening. I've really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys out there have enjoyed the talking points. So massive thank you to them. A massive thank you to everybody in the chat today, people who've tuned in, liked, subscribed, and everything else. It's really, really appreciate it. And then a special thanks to everybody who helps contribute and keep this channel going. Dark Sun G, Brian Dempsey, Jory, Marek, Rainman, Paul Markey, Mia, and also Black and Zini as well. So big up all of you guys who help support the channel financially. It really does help out. And guys, we'll all be back here tomorrow with something, so stay tuned. Actually, the Irish Hotspur podcast will be on its way tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And go and enjoy your evening. Come on, you Spurs. In the mighty hands we trust. We never stop.
Bye.
No, if I could find my outro, I wouldn't look like a dick.
Everywhere we go.